Okay, I think we can start in this venue now. So good morning, expert panel members and our student presenters and to all the other attendees. Welcome to venue B of the first morning session. My name is Thea and I'm going to be serving as the faculty moderator for this session. Before we begin, I'd just like to let you know that the session is being live broadcast, which is why we've got the cameras here and the camera team up the back as well. So if everyone can make sure that your phones are on silent so that it doesn't interrupt the broadcasting or the student presenters. We have 3 student presenters this morning. So each one will speak for 15 minutes and then we'll have 5 minutes of feedback or questions from the panel members. It's my job to make sure that we stick to the schedule so we don't allow the students to have more than 15 minutes. I'll stop you if you get to more than 15 minutes. Okay, so first of all, before we begin, I'd like to introduce our 4 expert panel members. We're very lucky. We have Mr. Francis Tan, who's the Vice President of Learning and Talent Management from MGM, our host today. Thank you. And then next to him, we have up this end, we have Ms. Jessica Lai, who's the Assistant Project Manager of Marketing. Thank you. And then we have Mr. Gonçalo Monteiro, Vice President of Hotel Operations at the New Londoner. And lastly, we have Mr. Alan Leung Yu, Executive Assistant Manager at the Grand Emperor Hotel. Okay, so our first presenter this morning is JACKY Lu Hoi Lam. JACKY. Okay, so I will turn over to you, JACKY.
Dear panel members, distinguished guests, good morning. My name is JACKY. My topic is how Macau fine dining restaurant deal with online campaign. Before I start the presentation, I would want to thank you, my supervisor, Dr. Yvonne Chen. She helped me a lot during the research process. Thank you. And for the presentation, I will divide it into 4 parts to doing the presentation. Step 1, I will talk about the background and the introduction or about the literature review. And the step 2 is the methodology is related to the research design and data analysis method. And for the step 3 is about my findings. It's related to the result and discussion. And for the final part is the conclusion part and the Q&A section. Okay, first, let's start about the background introduction of my topic. In 2020, social media mostly plays an important role in the electronic world of mouth. Because of the internet development of the society, many users has joined the social media. They can communicate with each other during the social media platform. So now we have many companies and brands all over the world, so company can get competitive advantage if they have a good electronic word of mouth. It's because when customer doing a customer evaluation and they want to purchase an item, they will evaluate the comment on the social media platform. So if a company have a good electronic word of mouth, they can get a competitive advantage. But unfortunately, people more focus on the negative things rather than the positive things. So my main objective is to develop an effective set of procedures for solving online campaigns. And before all the study related to this topic is about the hotel industry. So they have a research gap for the F&B industry. And this is my literature review to build up some knowledge related to my topic. I divided them into 2 parts related to electronic word of mouth. What is word of mouth and how it became developed to be electronic word of mouth, and how negative electronic word of mouth has come. People like to share their opinions about some negative or campaign things in the social media. So I have learned some previous research to get some knowledge related to this criteria. And for the next part is the customer campaign behavior. Why customer want to campaign and how customer campaign. And finally, I've get why they want to campaign in the fine dining restaurant. Maybe this the dessert or dishes or the venue decoration. I have learned many knowledge during this topic. And how can this research can be significant is this research is focused on the area of Macau, and this research can provide a reference for Macau restaurant to develop their own response procedure. And Macau positioning is to become the world tourism leisure center. So if Macau catering level can has a good electronic word of mouth, many tourists can attract to choose Macau to be travel, and it can play a role and contribute to the future development of Macau. And the next part is I'm going to talk about my research design and how I analyze the data. For the research design, I have used the qualitative interview. Why choosing the qualitative interview method is because this method is exploratory and can learn and finding some new concept and theory. Also, I will interview some people in charge of related field in the fine dining restaurant and collect data from an industry perspective to find out the answer of the question. And this is my interview design. Before I start the interview, I have designed interview guidelines so I can let the interview be structured, because all interview is separate to organize, and we need a guideline to structure the interview. And this interview guideline divided into 3 main parts. The first part is the opening for the warm-up question, and the main body is the research question, and ending is the suggestion of the future, how the restaurant can do better to solving the online campaign. And also the interviewees are all from fine dining restaurant. Why I choose fine dining restaurant to be the interviewees and for my topic is because we have many restaurants in Macau, but in fine dining restaurant, they have more strategy on their operation and they have managing better than the normal restaurant. So I choose fine dining restaurant to see how they have the procedure to deal with their online campaign. And some of the interviewees are restaurant owner or employees. They all have experience in handling online campaigns and the scope of work. A total of 8 interviewees were invited to do this interview in this study. They are all come from different type of dishes, and their working group need to be responsible for the processing online campaign. And this is my research process. First, I have invited them by email, and more than 20 emails were decoded because they are all said about customer complaint behavior is enforced personal privacy, and they may have a potential negative impact on the company image. And they say they are not available to join the interview. But afterward, I have finding to invite them one by one and go to their restaurant and talk with them. Finally, I can invite an interviewee to join my interview. After the interview, I invite the interviewee to share their friends or their other people with me. So I changed to use snowball method. After the first interview, the interviewee was invited to recommend the interviewee. And after this form, the successful rate of interviews has been improved. And in this research, I have used 2 data analyze method. I'm using the inductive analyze and the deductive analyze. By using the inductive analyze, I can find common and important features from the data. And the question can be answered through combination. Because I have 8 interviews, so I received many data during the interviews. And I have combined them into a same direction. And by using the deductive analyze, I can explain the relation between the concept. As I mentioned before in the literature review, I have known about the topic of electronic word of mouth and the customer campaign behavior. They have many relationships between them in different concepts. So by using the deductive analyze and the inductive analyze, I can find common point among those pen and understand what method. Finally, interview will also have different answers, which give me more direction for the reference. And how this research can be validity and reliability. I have rehearsal many times and reduced any risk during the interview because I have find my friends, my family, and some people in the IFTM, so they help me to do the interview rehearsal. And afterward, I have during the interview, most of them, they are in the restaurant atmosphere. So some of the restaurant owner, they want to enjoy some wine before the interview. So I make sure they are in a clean state. So I suggest them do this after the interview. And my interview mostly is held on Cantonese. So I need to translate them into English, but I am not the major of English. So I invite some of the people who is studying in the major of English to help me to do the translation. A total of 8 interviewees were invited to in this study. Why this why this number can be determined based on the data collected during the visit is because after I interview most of them, they give me the same answer, and this put me to the same direction. So in a qualitative interview, I think this is enough, and this can come out the result. And the next part, I will talk about the research finding. I find out three research questions during the research process. First is the impact of online campaign on restaurant. Respondents also generally believe that people now look for food through social media. So they will try to get more information before they go to purchase the item or go to the restaurant to enjoy their meal. So the online campaign can directly affect their revenue because the reputation of the restaurant have been affected, and people won't go to the restaurant with a bad reputation, and it will affect, but that can be affect for the local resident and also the travelers. And also respondents all believe that the campaign behavior, they are all have the angry emotion when they are sending the post on the internet. Therefore, their purpose to handle the online campaign is not let them to satisfy or let them to feel happy again, is to let them to stop the behavior. Is more important than to let them come to their restaurant again. And the next I have found out is the restaurant receive information about online campaign is through different channels. And how this is important is because it will affect the time that the restaurant solution time. If you have received the information very fast, you can handle the situation very fast. This is very important in the internet world. When the information has spread all around the world through a share button in the social media platform, so the time is very important. And it's through the public channel, it's from the social media. You can open a post or see it into some public channel. And for the private channel of the customer campaign behavior through online is by mail and in internet direct messages, such as when we are using Facebook, we can have a messenger, and when we are using Instagram, we can have a direct message. This is through the private channel to do the campaign. And this is the most important part of my thesis research is about the response of Macau fine dining restaurant handle online campaign. This is the model how fine dining restaurant deal with online campaign is they all first investigate about the situation of the campaign and then respond. They will choose respond or not respond. And why they may not respond is because they think if the campaign even is fake or is real, if they respond, they will let their spotlight in their PR situation. It is very dangerous for a restaurant to do so. But if they choose to respond, they openly respond is related to the public's welfare, such as food safety, or that will affect the other people. And for the private response is they will reply them by mail or the private channel. And through the research, I can know about campaigns are changeable, and there are many factors can affect the campaign and to affect that can be handled campaign effectively. So it's impossible to find out a perfect way to deal with every kind of campaign, but during the process, we can find out the model how to deal with the campaign. This model is to investigate whether to respond and which response method to take. In the process of this research, I can find out the mentality of Macau fine dining restaurant when handling campaigns. And therefore, the ideal result when dealing with problem is to hope that the campaign will stop his campaign behavior. And for the conclusion time, this research has found ways for fine dining restaurants to deal with online campaign. And in the process, I have some suggestions for the future researcher in this area to refer to. First, find a balance between positive and negative topic. Is because campaign is a negative things, and most of the interviewees won't want to do the interview because you have negative impact. But if you put some positive things on it, maybe ask about how is the restaurant doing? How do you let your restaurant become success? Then they will more want to talk more in your interview. And also, the religion network culture will also have an impact on the direction of the data collection on this topic, because most of the handling method is based on the restaurant owner and the representative of the restaurant. So how they think and how the culture of the religion have an impact on the direction of this topic. So I will recommend more region for data collection can be made that can be let the research become more completely. And finally, this research has summarized the response model of action, and because campaigns are variable, so it is impossible to find a perfect response formula to deal with all campaigns. But I believe that this research content will be very variable to be able to find out the best way to deal with different campaigns and group of people, because we have a model, and after all the campaigns, restaurants can improve themselves in the future. Okay, this is my presentation, and the next part is Q&A section. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jackie. You've done well to get such sensitive information from the restaurant owners. So now I'll hand over to the expert panel for any questions or feedback.
Okay, so I'll have the pleasure of being the first one. So once again, thank you for your presentation. And interesting that sometimes we also learn things from presentations as such. For example, e-warm. Yeah, that's a new term to me. Although, yeah, so yeah. Is that your own term or is that an industry term? E-warm.
It's an industry term. Is related to people communicate with each other about the item of purchase.
Yeah.
Yes, well,
yeah. Okay. So anyway, this would be some of my comments or suggestions. I am not from F&B, so I don't really have that very in-depth hands-on experience. But I try to sit here being the owner of a restaurant and to see whether from the research that you have done, whether I could do some takeaway from your findings. And of course, clearly, the message about the need to handle complaints well is evident. But I'm looking at something that I can put my hands around, like what is the impact of either handling well, conversely, not handling well. And so I personally, I believe a consequence of not handling well will be extreme. And whether there are more tips or to-do lists that me as a simple restaurant owner can actually say, hey, if I have this is what I would recommend based on the best practice I'm seeing all around. And so maybe it's not within the scope of your project, but this will certainly be quite useful. Yeah. And would you be using this presentation slide again at other sessions?
I think this is the only time I will.
Oh, okay. Because I spotted one typo error, which right at the very beginning is the word important. And so I think you want to use the word important, but it's another word that you use. And the reason is not because I'm picking a typo error, because the misspelling is the opposite meaning of important. And so that, again, from a presentation perspective, if that's important to you, if you use it again, I would suggest you may have to look at that again. Okay, something very minor. But overall, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jackie. I think we have done a good job. I think you were nervous, like everyone. It's normal. Don't worry. You have a clicker. You were using the computer instead of a clicker. So to be more comfortable, right? Talking, you're just attached to the computer there. So that makes you, I think, a little bit more nervous. So that's some of my recommendations for you. You can also walk around if you have the clicker. You don't need to be attached to the computer. I think for me, personally, I echo exactly what Francis was saying. You were too focused on the details, and I think you lost a lot of time on how did you prepare the data instead of saying what you found. So I think you spent probably 10 minutes on how you've done this, how you prepared this, instead of actually what was the results, what were actually the findings and the recommendations you had for these owners. I agree. I think one of the things and I know it's probably not, I was looking at what was the theme of your research and probably was not that part, but exactly what Francis was saying would be interesting for a restaurant owner. How can we do better at this? How can we handle them better? And also for me, how can we prevent them from happening? I was thinking a bit of that from your side as well. What is the recommendations for us how to prevent this, or at least to get better at handling these complaints? Again, I think you were very creative on the way you found this data, which is not an easy data to get, right? I'm sure most of the restaurants told you, go away. So you were very creative, using your snowball method, like you said, I think was really nice. But you also spoken about model now at the end. And I don't know, being in the industry for so long, yes, you need to have a model, but you need to be very flexible and creative as well as how you use this model, because what suits me might not suit Alan or Francis. So be careful when you use model, when you're talking about guests and the guest experience, because that can be really flexible. So you need to have a model that's very flexible. But overall, I think you've done a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We've come to the end of the 5 minutes for the feedback. So, but thank you for your feedback. It's really useful for Jackie. Thanks, Jackie. Okay, so our next student is MABELLA. Okay, so our next student present. sorry. Yeah, next time we have to start from this end. Okay, our next presenter is MABELLA. Okay, who's my student? Right. There you are.
Dr. Thea, honorable guests, fellow classmates, good morning. I'm MABELLA, presenting an examination of service quality and customer satisfaction of restaurants in Macau. And my presentation will be divided into several parts. And without further ado, let's begin. Evaluating service quality in restaurant dining is a relatively recent topic. More and more people prefer having their meal outside instead of staying at home and make a dish. These circumstances has caused a high demand of restaurants and a rapid growth of this sector in the service industry. So what is service quality and customer satisfaction, respectively? Service quality commonly means a customer's comparison of service expectation as it relates to the performance of a corporation. A business with a high level of service quality is likely competitive to satisfy customer needs, while also maintaining economically resilient in their respective industry. Hence, organizations have used customer perceived service quality as one of their strategic rules to improve business performance. On the other hand, for customer satisfaction, it is known to have a particular connection with service quality. Studies show that high service quality improves customer satisfaction, which allows firms to improve market share and their profit. Thus, service quality and customer satisfaction are considerably for all sectors, especially in the F&B industry. For this purpose, restaurant marketers frequently measure the satisfaction level and the service quality expectations of their customer whenever they want to understand and study more about what their needs and desires. In addition, some restaurants in Macau have received a Michelin star rating. The Michelin Guide is the world's most professional and authoritative restaurant rating system. According to the official information, there are lots of awarded restaurants in Macau, and all these awards shows the sustainable growth of the Macau F&B segment development. Since service quality across the multiple categories of the restaurant industry in Macau, and it has not yet been well explored, my research paper aims to evaluate the restaurant service quality by examining several types of restaurants in a city in a context of the following categories. First, fast food service. Second, casual dining. And third, fine dining, respectively. And this study seeks to answer the following research issue. First, are there differences in service quality in different restaurant categories in Macau? Second, is the Dine Serve Restaurant Index valid across restaurant categories in Macau? And third, does customer perception of service quality influence the satisfaction of diners across restaurant industry in Macau? So defining service quality is essential to restaurant service providers. Therefore, many studies have attempted to examine the service quality in the food service industry using this measurement index. And the most common one is called the Dime Serve Measurement Index. And it was first drafted by Stephen in 1995. It allows researchers to examine customers' perception of service quality in several restaurant segments. This measurement index also identified 5 dimensions of service quality, and each one represented by several items that could be evaluated by customers using a survey questionnaire. And they are reliability, assurance, tangible, empathy, and responsiveness. But referring to the market segment of Macau F&B industry, 2 more dimensions are included. They are price and satisfaction. Referring to my research thesis, a quantitative approach is justified as it allows information to be collected from diners at the 3 different types of restaurants, and survey data is collected using a questionnaire instrument. A convenient sampling was used to utilize all the results. There were both English and Chinese version of the questionnaire to seek all restaurant diners in different generations. All respondents had to answer all the questions and were required to complete the whole questionnaire online. It was published through social media, such as the online private WeChat groups and the secure message system from Instagram. And it was posted online for 2 weeks and on social media. The final valid sample consists of 100 complete questionnaires. There are several sections in our questionnaire, starting with the introduction and the basic information of respondents' selected restaurant. In this section, respondents are required to choose the category of the restaurant they have visited within the past 12 months. And after that, respondents' perception of service quality at the specific restaurant were measured on a total of 27 restaurant attributes, in which this describes the 7 dimensions, and the rating of the items were based on a 5-point Likert scaling. Last but not least, the respondents had to complete a section about their own demographic information. Referring to my findings and discussion, descriptive statistical analysis was run on a social demographic profile of respondents. Overall, the sample group represents a range of Macau residents in terms of income, occupation, and gender. This suggests younger age groups are much willing to answer, and it might also be a reflection on the social media sites used to post the questionnaire. Also, for gender, it suggests that younger age women are more willing to respond than younger males. After collecting all the 100 responses, 52 respondents chose casual dining restaurants, and 35 respondents had their meal in a fast food restaurant, and the rest 13 enjoyed fine dining. The range of restaurants may appeal to different people with respect of spending power and other factors such as the time available. The fast food sector and casual dining cost less than the meals in the fine dining, as it emphasized service and the quality of meals, whereas fast food sector and casual dining mainly focus on quantity and the speed of serving the food to customers. The mean value of all 27 service quality attributes in the questionnaire were computed and then arranged from the highest to the lowest value for the sample as a whole, and then for each of the category. This table reveals the ranking and the mean value for the whole sample in the general column and the rankings for the 3 restaurant categories. The ranking represents the degree of importance for customers in the service quality items. The higher the ranking of each attribute, the higher their concern. To sum up, attribute ranked the most important. And these are also some of the rankings. At the other end, paid more than expected had the lowest rank for the sample, with reasonable price also ranking quite low at 21. Empathy attributes received the low rankings for the entire sample. The low ranking given the 2 items in the dimensions across the sample and the 3 separated groups seems to show it is not so important for Macau diners. As there are many restaurants in Macau, it may be that prices are quite competitive, and so people are not really paying more than expected. It might also be that the dining out is a common in the city, so that most people are well aware of the prices, and it is unusual for them to pay more than expected. The empathy-related items also ranked quite low, suggesting that this level of sensitivity in restaurant service provision might not be very important for Macau diners. After comparing all the attributes, there is an overall ranking of dimensions among different restaurant sectors. In the fast food sector, reliability ranked first. For casual dining, it is similar ranking with the fast food sector. However, the order in fine dining has a big difference in comparison with the other 2 sectors. Empathy and price are the lowest related dimension for the sample. And these two dimensions are also the lowest ranking across the whole. This result again shows these two dimensions being less important for Macau diners across the restaurant categories. In this table, it is interesting to see that the fast food group has the lowest mean value for all three satisfaction items. This tends to emphasize that this group are the most concerned in just getting a meal. They are not really thinking on much about recommending to others and so on. Fast food restaurants mainly serve customers only on to buy their meal and also cleaning the tables after the customers finish and they leave. Unlike the other two sectors, it is hard for customers to evaluate the overall performance of the satisfaction of the fast food sectors. Casual diners have the same ranking, but slightly higher mean values. The fine dining groups has the highest mean value, and it indicates they have a very high level of satisfaction when having the Macau fine dining restaurants they have been to. Last but not least, a factor analysis of the result was conducted to see if all the attributes clustered on the same or similar factors for the categories identified in the Dime Serve Index developed for the three restaurant categories in Macau. And also, a maximum likelihood extraction method was applied. Factors were selected based on eigenvalues greater than 1 and an examination on the scree plot. Although most of the attributes clustered together in factors on a way similar to the index, only 3 factors were identified. As you can see, tangible items form one factor labeled tangible. The reliability, responsiveness, and assurance items all clustered together in one factor labeled accordingly. This is reasonably logical as there are many similarities between these 3 original categories, and it is likely that individual diners will see them as very similar. Finally, the empathy and price attributes clustered together on one label, price and empathy. This may be because all these items were similarly found to be relatively unimportant for the sample. To conclude, my research study tested the model of the Dine Serve Measurement Index in service quality and the importance of customer satisfaction for the restaurant industry in Macau. It is different from previous applications of the Dine Serve Index in the other cities, as it divided Macau restaurants into 3 categories on the basis that customers have different expectations and they dine in different restaurant sectors. After collecting all the results, attributes related to price and empathy are the least important for Macau diners. In terms of price, this might be because there is not much pressure for Macau diners on living quality, and restaurant dining is reasonably priced in the city. With respect to empathy, it appears Macau diners are not so interested in the very sensitive aspects of service provision in a restaurant, like a reassurance of staff in fulfilling customers' requirements and providing individual attention to each customer. COVID-19 brought out little an ongoing pandemic. Due to this situation, the Macau government has launched a list of regulations and rules for all citizens to follow, such as the social distancing and mask wearing. This affects the usual service of the whole F&B sector and limits the possibility of this usual service of the whole interview and observe the whole service process of the restaurant and to survey the customers directly in the dining area. Because of the same reason, the sample size of the result collected is somehow small when divided into 3 groups. Future research could therefore focus more on collecting a larger sample and more people across different age groups, and also in the fine dining sector. Meanwhile, researchers can investigate the relationship between service quality and customer satisfaction in other sectors of the service industry in Macau, such as transport and hospitality, and use the same measurement index, the Dine Serve Measurement Index. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mabella. And this is actually a very detailed presentation. And then actually I have one suggestion for the presentation because you show many tables and many data, but for us, at least for me, actually, I think what you said is more important because it's the result and findings, but you didn't show any like conclusions the findings that you have under the data. So therefore, sometimes for me, when I read your data, so I actually don't understand what you want to tell, but I have to listen to you very carefully to understand what you want to present. So maybe for the audience, it will be much better than to place your conclusion in the presentation. And also one more thing is, actually, I feel like actually, I'm just very curious because your age group is actually quite large, and how to define whether they only go to one specific category, because you have 100 interviewees, and then you can really separate them into different categories. So I'm just curious about that.
Thank you for your question. So at the very beginning, when they answer the questionnaire in the first section, they are required to fill in the name of the restaurant they have visited and also to select the categories of the restaurant. And after that, after passing the measurement of the 27 items, at the end, they will have to fill in their demographic questions. Yeah. So that is quite according to the flow of the questionnaire, and it allows me to classify into different tables and get out the result. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, MABELLA. Thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting topic. Just some curious about your research. As you said, you conduct a quantitative research, right? Quantitative research. And one of the question is same as Jessica meaning. How you define have you conducted research during the demographic, collecting the demographic figures? Have you asked your respondent for their income?
Yes. Thank you for your question. In the demographic part, they have to fill in their age group, their gender, the occupation status, and the income. Yeah.
So because when come to your conclusion, I saw that most of your respondents are quite satisfied with the fine dining restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And the fast food one will be the lesser satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll just make sure there's no bias in your research.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And at the very beginning, I just say a little bit nervous, and you speak a little bit fast. And other than that, I think. Oh, by the way, when you do the research, when you do the let's say hypothesis, have you studied about the correlation between the respondent education and their satisfaction, their perception, something like that? Other than the income.
Thank you for pointing it out. Actually, I didn't really think about it. I just refer to their income and their occupation status because, as you can see, I have at least a point for students.
Yeah, because it's very fast.
Sorry.
So, yes, because there's one of the area that it might make the research become a little bit biased. Because when different education level of your respondent, their perception are quite different.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing it out. I will improve in my future report.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment. I think it was very detailed. I think, again, a little bit to the point as well. Perhaps too many tables. Perhaps some graphics will help us understand better sometimes because it was too quick. But a lot of really, really good information. And I think you've touched what I'm going to say, but not as a concept. I think what is the interesting concept on all this you're talking is value for money. You said that you have price and satisfaction, and if you put them together, that's basically value for money. So you can really have great restaurants that are fast food and also fine dining. It's the value for money that I think is a concept that you should include here, even if you talk about it, because that's more and more what you're seeing is, doesn't matter if it is a street restaurant or a fine dining, it's what you take the value. When you said at the end on your conclusions that the guests don't give a lot of importance to service and some other things, that's probably why, because you have more and more on your fast food restaurants and actually casual dinings than fine dinings on your evaluation. That's why probably, but that's a great thing. I think, no, it's a new trend, I think, coming through. Less fine dining and much more value for money than other thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback and your comments. I think that's a really good idea, actually, to find more correlations between the demographic factors and the restaurants that were selected by the sample. Yeah. So thank you for your feedback. So our next presenter is coming up is Tommy. Tommy, I don't know your Chinese name. So Tommy, Tong Ka Kit. Okay. I hand the microphone over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tommy, and it is my honor to share the finding of my study with you today, and which is about authenticity in restaurant, the perspective of Macau's local restaurant operators. Today's presentation will be separated into 5 sections: introduction, literature review, methodology, findings, contribution, and implication. In these sections, I will tell you why it's important to conduct this study and to clarify the objective of this study. The word authenticity is common to hear while people travel around the world, due to the fact that the concept of authenticity is widely used by tourism and hospitality to promote their service and products. Especially under a cultural context, authenticity is considered as a core element for tourist experience and contributes to the destination attractiveness. Moreover, the demand for authenticity in the restaurant is getting stronger, so it is worth to conduct a study to understand and explore the local restaurant operators' perspective of authenticity. And in this section, I'll highlight the main focus area of the existing literature and to show you the identified gap this study aims to fulfill. So far, there are at least four approaches to authenticity concepts were identified, such as objective authenticity. Although the exact meaning of authenticity debates by the scholar that what is the exact meaning of authenticity. However, the concept of authenticity adopted in the tourism and hospitality are commonly used to describe something is real, true, and original. And these are the 3 main focus areas of the existing literature: the component of authenticity in restaurant, effect of authenticity in restaurant, influence on perceived authenticity, but in a consumer perspective. After reviewing the existing literature, the gaps were identified, which is lack of examination of local restaurant authenticity from a restaurant operator perspective. Although there are some scholars conduct study to aim to fill this gap, such a study conducted in 2020 aimed to explore the role of authenticity in domestic restaurants in Switzerland from a manager perspective, and other study conducted in 2019 aimed to understand the role of authenticity and local food for restaurants in Greece. However, they are not comprehensible to fill this gap. As a result, I conduct this study aimed to understand the authenticity meaning for local restaurant, and how do the operators project authenticity in their restaurant, and then what kind of challenges for the restaurant operator while maintaining authenticity. For the methodology, I'll tell you why I chose Macau as a place to conduct this study and to show the procedure of the data collection and analysis. To achieve the stated objective, I decided to conduct this study in Macau because Macau was given the title of Creative City of Gastronomy in 2017. It is worth a further understanding and exploration to discover the multi aspects of related to food and restaurant in Macau. Also, the restaurant in Macau has been said to demonstrate the integration of Chinese and Western culture. Therefore, it is valuable to understand restaurant authenticity under this special cultural background. And within this small area, have over than 2,000 restaurants in this small area, including various of local restaurants, which provide enough valuable research object for this study. And I adopt a qualitative approach to in this study, and I interviewed with 17 local restaurant operators. The interview conduct within the restaurant where the interviewees work helped me to conduct the site visit and field observation. Among them, 12 of them are restaurant owners, 3 of them are restaurant manager, and 2 of them are inheritors. For the sampling method, I choose to use the purposive sampling because it's helped me to exclude the unsuitable candidates and help to select the appropriate interviewees for this study based on my knowledge. And this study adopts thematic analysis to identify the specific idea relevant to the subject of this study from the interviews. Finally, 3 main steps and 12 substeps emerge. And in this section, I'll explain the finding of my study with diagrams, photo, and participant code. And now I'll explain them one by one. The first one is local restaurant operator perspective of authenticity, supported by 4 subthemes. Most of the interviewee mentioned food and beverage while reporting their thoughts about authenticity. Some of the interviewees specifically point out that the taste of food is vital for an authentic restaurant. Additionally, dining experience is another factor that affects restaurant authenticity in the manager perspective. Such as one of the interviewees said that the unique dining experience is the way to impress his guests and give them the authentic feeling. On the other hand, the surrounding and location is another factor to affect the feeling of authenticity, especially for those whose restaurant located in Haksai and Kelowang. The last but not least, although each participant have their own thoughts about authenticity, but all of the participants believe that the history and the story behind the subtheme that I just mentioned were crucial to making those elements meaningful. This interviewer shared his stories with me about telling me that if in the old Macau without the shipbuilding industry, his restaurant will not be exist, let alone authenticity. And this photo was taken by me, located in Kelowang, which nearby the restaurant, nearby the interviewee's restaurant. And the second main theme is the weight of local restaurant project authenticity, supported by 5 subthemes. Each of the participants have their own way to project authenticity. For example, some of the interviewees mentioned that the restaurant authenticity could be evaluated by the indoor decoration and the furniture inside the restaurant. Generally, the selected decorations and furniture placed inside the restaurant could represent the history and the history and the stories behind the restaurant. And in some local restaurants, traditional cookware and equipment serve as an important medium to deliver the feeling of authenticity, especially in those local restaurants which has a certain history background. And thirdly, adopting traditional recipe is another way to deliver the feeling of authenticity, since the recipe allows them to cook the taste of old Macau, then deliver the feeling, then we created feeling of old Macau, then give the feeling to their customers. Besides promoting and projecting the authenticity inside the restaurant, actually a few interviewees has seeking the external cooperation to enhance the feeling of authenticity. Such as one of the interviewees said that they cooperate with the government departments can enhance the feeling of consumers' perspective of their restaurant authenticity. And then another way is getting authorization from an authoritative organization is another effective way to proclaim the restaurant authenticity. The final finding is the challenges of maintaining authenticity in the local restaurant. As the interview mentioned a lot of challenges, such as high cost, lack of local specialties, and highly competitive environment. These are the challenges to pose the difficulty for them to maintain the authenticity in their restaurant. However, based on the information provided by them, two main challenges were identified, which is operational difficulties and lack of characteristic. For the operational difficulty, the most common challenges is about cost. They always mention cost, like about the cost of running business is become higher and higher, but instead the profit is less. So this is one of the challenges for them. And the second one is some of the interviewees argue that Macau has lack of local characteristic and originality for them to create special dish to deliver the feeling of authenticity. So these two main challenges can negatively affect their ability for maintaining restaurant authenticity. For the contribution and implication, conceptually, this finding contribute to the restaurant authenticity, especially on the local restaurant authenticity. Since most of the previous study has focused on the themed and ethnic restaurant, therefore, by focusing on a local restaurant authenticity, this study expand the existing knowledge and provide more holistic understanding for the authenticity of a restaurant. Theoretically, the finding of this study contribute to adding a new lens like to the restaurant authenticity, since that the finding of this study is conducted in a operator's perspective, but whereas most of the previous study is conducted in a consumer perspective. For the implication, let's talk about the restaurant operators. These findings, the finding of this study serve as a reference for them to understand how to project authenticity in their restaurant and to understand the potential challenges while maintaining authenticity. And for the authenticity researcher, the finding of this study showed that when a study conducted in a very local context and focus on local restaurant, the meaning of authenticity can be very diverse compared to conduct a study compared to such study conducted in a very generalized and focused on themed and ethnic restaurant. For the Macau government, the finding of this study showed that because of the range and shortage of staffing, the old restaurant with historical and cultural significance is rarely seen in Macau. Therefore, Macau government should pay more attention on how to preserve and pass on the local culinary culture and help those restaurants to protect their authenticity. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just quickly share a few of my observations and comment, and I think it was a good presentation, so well done. One of the things I must applaud you is that I think you have taken on a very bold topic on authenticity, because I think it can be abstract, it can be contentious as whose definition of authenticity is the right one. But that doesn't take away the fact that there is something there about authenticity, all right? You quoted a few of the research findings that seem to back up this. I would love to see a little bit more high-level findings, recommendation as to why authenticity is a good business case. And so when we, like I said here, I try to imagine I'm a local owner, and I need to be convinced that it's a strong business case. Authenticity brings good business for me. And these are the studies that shows that. And so if you have a little bit more time, if you need to look at it again, that would be useful for people like us who don't have the benefit of seeing the whole study, okay? And so I think that's one thing. Because one of the things the argument would be, would you want authenticity for authenticity's sake versus it is viable? And so your argument would be, yes, it is worth it, let's do it. And so you've identified a few of the factors as to what affects this A word. And so I think those are useful starting points. And my parting question before I give some time to my panel members would be, do these local restaurants pursue authenticity deliberately, or is a natural evolution? If you know what I'm saying. So you may list out all these factors at the back of the mind currently, where they are today. Do they wholly embrace authenticity, or it's just a cause of natural evolution for them? And because if your business case is tight, if your understanding of the variables to up the ante on authenticity, then they can be more deliberate about it. Okay, taste is important, this is important, the cookware is important, etc. And they're more deliberate about it. And so that will be a conclusion further down the road in your research. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hey, Tommy, good presentation. Did you chosen this subject, or was given to you?
I chose it. I chose it.
Yeah, I think you've taken a huge. So we could actually talk about this for 15 minutes, not 5. But again, being Portuguese and being in Macau and knowing how many Portuguese restaurants are in Macau and which ones are authentic or not authentic, it's a very controversial theme. Depends from village to village, the recipes. So it's really a tough one. Mm-hmm. I think you've tried to get us into a direction. It is tough to get them, but I think it's a really, really, like Francis was saying, it's a great, that's why you have so many team restaurants and authentic, well, trying to be authentic restaurants in Macau for many, many other parts. But I think you've done a good presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tommy, for this. Because for a local, I didn't really think about that, because when we choose restaurants, we don't really think about whether it is really authentic or not. And when you talk about this topic, and I will feel like, did I really value for that when I choose the restaurants in the customer's perspective? And like other panel members said, did the restaurant really value for their whether they're authentic or not, and then also for the difficulties. So do they really, this is a question, so do they, how they overcome that? And then also one more question is, because when you talk about the challenges, you specify the years of experience. So I'm also curious why you will talk about this in your presentation.
Thank you for your question. So your question about how do the restaurant operator, how they overcome their challenges. So the main challenges of them is about cost. So some of the restaurant operator, they do cooperate with other restaurants to do a crossover for their of their dishes. However, this reduce the feeling of authenticity of their restaurant. So therefore, they try to do less of that crossover, but do more marketing to attract more guests to consume in their restaurant, then can come over the challenge of cost. And then the second question is, the year of experience is how long they work in the industry. Just want to provide the information for you that that year of working in that restaurant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the. Thank you very much for the feedback and the comments from the panel members. It's really useful for our students, really invaluable for the students. Okay, so I've got certificates here to present to the 3 students. You want to come out? Okay, so I'll give you your certificates and then I'll ask the panel members if they can come out and we can have a group photo. So, Jackie and Mabella and Tommy, can you all come out and get your certificate? Okay, so Jackie, here you go, and Mabella, here you are. Here you are. And if I can ask the panel members also to come out and we'll have a group photo with the students with their certificates. Okay, so how do you want it? Okay, like this? All right. We might need to get a bit closer together. Okay, you come. Okay, all right. Okay, and just before the panel members go, we've got a souvenir for you. It's IFT Macau Pass from our 25 year. So
Thank you.
It's very special Macau Pass. Okay, so thank you very much for your feedback. Okay, okay.